Today is Sunday, December 9th, 2018, and this is Celtics Beat here on CLNS Media, the leading online provider of audio, video coverage of your Boston Celtics. Evan Valenti pinch hitting for Adam Kaufman here on this Sunday, episode 292, featuring the Boston Globe's Chad Finn, is brought to you by Action Heat. Go to actionheat.com/Boston or use the coupon code Boston at checkout to get 20% off your next order. Again, that's actionheat.com/Boston with the promo code Boston at checkout to save 20%. Another episode of Celtics Beat here on CLNS Media. Evan Valenti filling in for a very sickly Adam Kaufman. Adam, get better. Just filling in, pitch hitting real quick. He'll be back next week. Hopefully he's feeling better. But I hope a speedy recovery for Adam. Happy holiday season to all of you out there listening to the show. Make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes, on Stitcher. Follow us on CLNS Media. All that fun stuff. Leave us a review, a rating, all that fun stuff. We love comments, whether it's constructive, whether it's funny, you want to make fun of me, you want to make fun of Adam, doesn't really matter. We love hearing from you guys. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at Evan Valenti, and Adam Kaufman is at Adam M. Kaufman. We're going to welcome in our guests, though, for this week. Chad, you've been kind of busy as, like, the media watchdog overlord with everything that's going on at EEI, with Kirk Minahan and everything. You've been kind of busy, my man.
Yeah, always busy. It never ends around here, you know. Media feels like the fifth major sport in the Boston market. Maybe it might be ahead of at least one of the other sports. So it never slows down. Always interesting. Definitely
had a Boston College. I don't know if it's any in front of the four major sports, but definitely above BC or any of the collegiate programs around the Commonwealth here. And I got to be honest with you, man, it's catching at a good time. I think you're getting ready for a basketball game yourself. Your daughter has a JV game coming up in like an hour and a half?
Yeah, my daughter, who was in second grade just 2 years ago, it seems like, is making her high school debut tonight.
Wow.
So I know it goes. They tell you it goes by fast when you're a parent. They're lying. It goes by even faster than they tell you. It's crazy. So you gotta enjoy every moment of it as a parent, even the ones that drive you crazy.
Got any big influences for her, like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird? Does she, mix a little bit of like Kyrie a little? Give us her profile here.
Well, I have a picture in my home office of the '80s Celtics and Lakers jumping at center court, and when she was no older than 2, she could identify Larry Bird out of the photo. So I brainwashed her with that pretty quickly, and. You know what? It's really interesting nowadays. I mean, it's Curry and the Warriors for every kid, boy or girl. That the NBA nowadays has really captured the imagination of kids, probably more than it has at any point since the '80s when I was growing up. So it's really great to see. The NBA right now has as appealing and diverse a group of players as you could possibly imagine, and it's really having an effect on the younger demographics. I've kind of been fortunate to live that with my kids.
Yeah, I feel that. I was playing pickup with some younger kids, like high school kids, the other day. It was at the Y, and all they want to do is take deep threes, and I'm like, guys,
that is true.
I'm like, you guys, Curry's good at layups too. The guy knows how to get to the rim pretty well. His predecessor, I would say, is Steve Nash. Steve Nash could get to the rim at will, and he knew how to pass. So, guys, it's not all about deep threes anymore.
I never wanted to write one of those cliched columns about how Curry's ruined basketball, because I think the '90s Knicks ruined basketball and they finally got it back. But it really has in terms of how kids play it. They all want to do that. They all want to be Curry, or they all want to have the crazy handle. And it was kind of that way with Iverson too. You play with the young guys who thought they were Iverson. Nobody but Iverson was Iverson. But nowadays it's just people bombing. I still drag my butt up and down the court in a men's league, and it gets frustrating against younger players because they just want to jack shots up. And I'm not like talking about being George Mikan or anything, but you can make an entry pass to the post every once in a while. That's my old man rant.
No, it's okay. And I'll be honest with you. Not to make this like tangential thing, but people ask me all the time about the Monday Night Football game the other night that was Rams Chiefs. It was 54-51 the final. And everybody's like, oh, look how great that was. Isn't that awesome? I'm like, no. 54-51, was it entertaining? Sure, but does anybody want to play defense at any point during any one of these games? I mean, I don't mean to be that guy of like yelling in a cloud, but back in my day, when the Patriots were, winning their first run of Super Bowls here, they won it primarily because defensively they were in a different league than everybody else. Now it's just throw the ball, and now we're getting to a point, and again, I don't mean to get on football, but we're getting to a point where I think teams are forgetting about clock management now. I mean, Andy Reid's forgotten about clock management for the past 20 years, but you look at some of these teams, they score too quickly, and you don't even, I'll go back to the game against the Chiefs Sunday night, Patriots-Chiefs. The Chiefs had the ball with 3:20 left in the game. They were down a touchdown. Mahomes scores in 7 seconds because that offense is unbelievable, right? Well, Tom Brady gets the ball back, looks at the clock, and goes, well, you guys aren't getting the ball back ever again, so thanks for playing. We'll see you guys next time. Pats win by 3 points, 43-40. All these high, sometimes, things were better the way they were. I remember interviewing Mike Gorman this summer, and we were talking about college basketball and about how college basketball back in his day, quote unquote, was better because you had rivalries. You had guys that would stay 3 or 4 years and develop it and actually work on skills. It's not like a factory anymore. There used to be actual development that would take place in college basketball, Chad.
Yeah, it sucks because, I grew up in that era where Mike was the voice of the Big East, and you could anticipate the next season because guys would be back. It wasn't, it wasn't Kentucky having Karl Anthony Towns one year and then the next number one pick the next year, and then 3 top 5 guys, top 10 guys the year after that, and there's no continuity. You could look forward to seeing Patrick Ewing for 4 years, or Chris Mullin for 4 years, or see Pearl Washington go head-to-head with, Mark Jackson at St. John's for a couple of seasons, or whatever it happened to be. And that added so much more to the game. I love basketball at every level. I still like college basketball a lot. But if you told people today what it was like in the 80s, they wouldn't believe it because it's just so distant and far from what the college game is now, where you see a guy for a year and then you're trying to figure out that whole season where he's going to go in the draft.
Yeah, it's just way different now. And as a guy who spent time following Syracuse halfway through, I was a junior in college when they switched to the ACC. So I have 1 foot in the Big East, 1 foot in the ACC. I do miss Big East basketball. It was really something, and I talked to Mike Gorman about it, and him and I were both really upset because he had that 30 for 30 requiem for the Big East, and I thought it was brilliant in that. And to watch him and Raftery do commentary, I'm like, I'm in heaven there. I'm literally in heaven with those two guys. Nothing better than that. Let's move on, though, because we have to actually talk about the Celtics. C's have going, so we're recording. Yeah, and we have to actually talk about the Celtics. We're taping this on a Friday, so coming off this Knicks game, the Celtics have won 4 in a row. They're playing Chicago coming up. It looks like Kyrie's going to play in that, so I'm going to guarantee a win here. Not a big deal. So probably by the time you listen to this, it'll be 5 in a row. Seems like Boston's putting things together at the right time, Chad. In your estimation, what is the biggest reason for this?
Seems like the lineup changed more than – well, the biggest reason is they're making more shots than they were before.
Right.
I remember I took a look at it when they were 10-10, and the shooting percentages on the team were brutal. Yeah, I think at that point in time, Tice was shooting 61%, which is fantastic, and not that unexpected given where he generally shoots from other than the occasional 3. But Marcus Morris was at 48%, and then everybody else is just garbage. It was Jaylen Brown was in the 30s and 62% from the line and 20-something from 3, and Hayward's percentage was way down. And, Irving's was fine, but everybody else was well below where you thought they would be. And that's kind of changed a little bit, and it seems like the impetus, maybe it's coincidence, or maybe it is the impetus for it is the lineup changes at Brad. Putting Marcus Smart in the starting lineup, starting Marcus Morris, and giving him a pretty good run there at forward based on how well he's played all season. And for whatever reason, it's worked. Hayward's done a really good job coming off the bench. Jaylen Brown was excellent against the Knicks, 21 points in his comeback from his injury. So seems like the change made a difference, and it seems like the logic that eventually some of those open shots would start falling has finally happened, and it's led into a 4-game winning streak so far.
We can go 5. We can make it 5. Chicago is garbage. Anyway,
if Kyrie didn't play, would you still guarantee it?
Oh, that's a tough one, huh?
Yep.
I think I still would. I just don't think the Bulls really. I mean, they're a mess. I mean, Garpax again. You know, they bring in their guy Fred Hoiberg, and then all of a sudden he's not. And they don't put a team around him, and they fire him. Like I just don't understand the logic inside what's going on in Chicago right now. I mean, they got lucky that Levine can actually play. Jabari not so much, and they took a shot on Chris Dunn that really hasn't worked. So. Like, I just don't. I honestly feel bad for Hoiberg in this scenario. He's never had a team. Him and Jimmy Butler never got along, and then he's never gotten a team that can actually coach. And then he gets fired. And we're supposed to look at Fred Hoiberg like he failed here, and in reality, it's Garpax. But I don't want to get into. They're a disaster. I do want to talk about the new starting lineup though, because you brought that up. The new starting lineup of Kyrie, Smart, Tatum, Morris, and Horford have played 80 minutes together. They have an offensive rating of 119.2 per 100 possessions. Their defensive rating is 106.4. So that's a difference of 12.8, which is really, really, really solid. So basically, they outscore their opponents by 13 points per 100 possessions when those guys are on the floor. And if you go to the old starting lineup, they were getting absolutely roasted on both ends. Offensively, they were bad. Defensively, they weren't nearly as good. They just didn't have any continuity. And I think for me, Chad, I think that there's too many guys that have no idea what role they're in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you have too many guys. You have Jalen and Jason who went from, we're the reason why, we're here in the Eastern Conference Finals. We're going to Game 7 against LeBron. Tatum was toe for toe with LeBron in Game 7. He was spectacular. Now they take a backseat to Kyrie and trying to figure out where Hayward fits in. And now taking some pressure off Jalen and Hayward to kind of find their rhythm in the second unit and just beat up on other second units has really worked out for them. Meanwhile, Marcus Smart, you know what he does. Like, he comes in, he's an energy guy, he's going to rebound the basketball, he's going to facilitate the ball a lot, he is going to hustle after every loose ball imaginable. Marcus Morris is basically just going to shoot and play defense. Kyrie kind of, constructs everything. Horford is the ultimate chess piece. And Tatum, picks and chooses his spots and is still figuring out really how to play with this group. But just from a role standpoint, these guys seem to understand how they fit with each other better than the original starting lineup.
Yeah, a lot of the credit for that, I think, goes to Marcus Smart. I mean, the first game that he started, he played, I think it was 40 minutes. And what's the worry when Marcus Smart plays a lot? He's going to jack up a lot of bad shots. He's one of my all-time favorite Celtics.
Definitely.
I like him personally. I wish he wouldn't shoot as much as he has in the past. In that game when he played 40 minutes, he only took 8 shots. And that, to me, was a sign that he understands what they're asking him to do here. They need him to go out there, the most, I don't want to say unstable player, but the most, the wildest wild card that they have. Putting him out there. They needed him to stabilize things, and he did what was asked of him, and he has continued to do those Marcus Smart things that people who don't follow the Celtics night after night after night, they might be skeptical that, Mark, the little things that he does, we're exaggerating them. We're not. He does those things, and they help you win. We saw it in the postseason last year. We saw it against Houston last year when he mentally tormented James Harden in the game. We've seen time and time again, and he's doing those things now. It's made a big difference. In terms of everything else, I think I understand where Brown and Tatum are coming from. They did help get that team to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and if they hadn't forgotten Tatum was on the roster in the last 6 minutes of that game, they might have won. I mean, he had the dunk and the three-pointer that put him ahead, and then I don't think he had a meaningful shot again until the last minute or so of the game. That kid had a right to be supremely confident coming into the season, and Jalen did too. He wasn't quite on the same level as Tatum or certainly the explosive offensive player, but he took huge steps forward in his second season and had a right to feel good about his role on the team. And I think the Celtics made a little bit of a mistake in putting Gordon Hayward in there right away. They should have eased him back in a little bit more. They must have seen in practice that he wasn't ready defensively, that he was still a little bit hesitant near the basket in traffic, and that probably would have been wiser, and I think Brad would say this himself, to ease him back in a little more. And so it feels like if Jaylen Brown is really going to be as unselfish about his role as it looks right now, that the way things are organized at this point, is the way they're going to be, and they're the way they should be, and they're working. And that's it took them. I don't think it took them a very long time to figure out they needed to fix this team. And I think we're going to see as the games mount here that it was the right thing to do, and they're going to really get rolling.
Yeah, they look more competent. They look like the energy's there. That's the one thing that you would watch. The energy early in the part of the season, like they would defensively have a lot of energy, but then towards the end of possession, they'd fall apart, and then you get into this mix of, wow, we played a great defensive possession. It ends with an unfortunate offensive rebound, and then you kind of lapse defensively, and then you get sloppy and lazy, and the execution on the other end because you're pressing a little bit more. That in turn, because it's like a snowball effect, right? You just have everything just ends up piling up more and more because you press so much. Mm-hmm. But again, you put two guys in, and again, I'm with you on this. I think Marcus Smart, and I think your former colleague Bob Ryan said it last week as well. For all the detractions of his shot selection that we've had with Smart in the past, he has been such a rock. And I'm stealing this via everybody's favorite Polish guy who puts highlights together, Timmy, on Twitter, Tomek. Marcus Smart in his new role. I'm stealing this from him. I want to give him credit. Smart as a starter has played 120 minutes, Chad. He is averaging 5.5 assists per game in that span with only one turnover in 120 minutes.
Well, that's always been the most underrated thing about him is that he's a good playmaker. He's not flashy. He's not, he's not electrifying off the dribble or any of those sort of things. But he's a really good passer who sees the court well, doesn't lose the ball too often. And we talk about his defense, and that should be the first thing we talk about. And we complain about the shot selection sometimes. Certainly, there's merit there too with his history, but. He's good at a lot of different things on the court, and finding an open teammate is one of them. So I'm not surprised by it. The other thing, Evan, that I think was part of their issue was that guys had a lot of belief in themselves. And, if you're going to have a team where you've got 6 or 7 or 8 really skilled players and they all believe, all right, this is going wrong, it's up to me to step up and fix this, it's going to look ugly sometimes. But I think one of the things we realized is that everybody was coming from the right place. That Jason Tatum felt like he was going to be an explosive scorer and that he could help them out even with those mid-range jump shots that weren't going in. That, someone else trying to step up and pick up the slack in a certain time when they're struggling, it came from the right place, whether it was Marcus Morris, whether it's Jaylen Brown maybe taking some ill-advised threes. I mean, he works his butt off on his three-pointer at practice every day. He wants to become a better shooter. He works hard at it. It hasn't translated to the game, but we can't fault him for taking those shots sometimes. So I don't think there was any divisiveness on this team. Maybe, Terry Rozier's playing for a contract a little bit, but for the most part, I think everything, even when it was going wrong, was coming from the right place in terms of what they were trying to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, part of that goes back to Brad for getting these guys focused up and trying to figure out, what buttons to press and where to put guys where. And quick break from Chad to tell you today's show is brought to you by Action Heat. Action Heat makes the world's best battery-heated clothing. It's heat on demand with the touch of a button. Control your environment with Action Heat. It's awesome. I have a bunch of Action Heat stuff. Socks. I have like a thermal. It is unbelievable. Action Heat clothing is engineered to safely and efficiently deliver heat via heating panels, basically similar to a heated car seat, but imagine that all over your body. They can reach temperatures up to 135 degrees and are powered by rechargeable 5-volt lithium-ion batteries that last up to 12 hours on each charge. Action Heat batteries can also be used to recharge your phone or any other gadget while you're wearing it. It's a perfect gift for any friend or family member on your holiday wish list here. Great for anyone who works outdoors, skiers, snowboarders, or basically anybody that just hates being cold. Like, seriously, you go outside, some of these blizzards, you're snow blown, you're clearing the car off, you're clearing the walk off, you're just trying to get everything under control. Control your environment with Action Heat and with heatable clothing. It's the best. Action Heat provides toasty warmth and comfort for your entire body, including heated jackets, socks, gloves, hats, and more. And we have a special deal for our listeners. Save 20% off your entire order today. Just go to actionheat.com/Boston. Check out everything that Action Heat has to offer. Again, that's actionheat.com/Boston, or use the coupon code Boston at checkout to save 20%. Stay toasty and warm while you enjoy all of your outdoor activities this winter with Action Heat. Back to Chad. you look at the way this team has kind of rolled through the past couple. I mean, offensively, they are starting to put together some serious point totals. And again, who they've played, as Nick Wright has made, somewhat famous this morning. Well, they haven't played anybody the past couple of games. Yeah, I get that, but you know what? Sometimes you got to beat up on bad teams to get a good rhythm going. And the Celtics, since Thanksgiving, have been one of the most prolific offenses in the entire league. They have the best net rating in the entire league since Thanksgiving. That comes via Dan Greenberg. They have really put together a solid effort, and I think it's everybody on the team just kind of figuring out what their role is. Morris to start the year was like such a godsend and was just on fire from everywhere. But now he's cooled off, but you see somebody else step up. It's kind of one of these old adages. And the one thing I'll say about this team, looking at it from the preseason, from before this preseason even started, it was, wow, this team has so much talent. What are they going to do with it all? And it reminds me a lot of these championship teams that you see, whether it's Golden State, whether it was Miami under LeBron and Wade and Bosh, or whether it's even pretty much across all sports. Like, somebody at some point has to make some certain kind of sacrifice, right? Like, there has to be, somebody's got to swallow their pride and not score as much and not do this as much and not do that as much for the benefit of the overall team. And what I've liked recently are the two quotes that have come from Hayward and come from Jalen about coming off the bench. And Jalen the other night talking about how, Hayward came off the bench and scored 30 points the other night was the biggest reason why I won the game against, Minnesota, right? Having that mindset of, like, whatever it takes to help this team, as you kind of alluded to, these guys have the right place of mind, like their heart's in the right place, they just don't know how to get there. Yeah. This to me is a reflection on character, which I think is a reflection on Danny and a reflection on Brad. Like, these guys know what they're looking for. They look for the right type of players to fit in their system, and they look for guys with extremely good character, whether that's Jason Tatum, who sounds, way more, way older than a 20-year-old, your average 20-year-old. Jaylen Brown, since he was drafted, is just always kind of played older, or at least sounded older than he really is. He attends Harvard business seminars, and you have Kyrie Irving, who's trying to write a philosophy book, and you have all these guys that play mature and have mature attitudes, and that's always been the thing with Marcus Smart from day one. That guy knew the history of the team, knew what was important, what he brings to. It feels like these guys despite the fact the record might not be as great, they have the team you'd want to get into a dogfight in a 7-game series because everybody's going to contribute to winning, it feels like.
Yeah, I feel like Hayward's a huge part of that because, first of all, I thought it was a really encouraging sign after the Minnesota game when everybody was so happy for him. This is a guy who we know what he went through, but he was out all last season while these guys were succeeding, and he comes back and gets his job back right away and gets minutes from guys who felt like they earned those minutes last season. And so it could have led to some awkwardness. And it's clear that everybody in this team likes him, and they felt really good for him after that happened. And conversely, you can see that he's really going out of his way not to be a selfish superstar, guy with a superstar ego. I mean, he's probably overpassing when he came back. It's been kind of a revelation to me how well he sees the court. It's kind of in the same way that Horford does, where he'll hit the guy on the opposite side and you didn't even realize that guy was open while you're watching from the couch. Just has great vision. But it was clear he was trying to implement himself back in a little slowly, and some of that I'm sure was in his mind about the foot and about the ankle. I mean, we think about it every time he goes into traffic. He must think about it too as well. But he seems to be willing to sacrifice part of his game. I'm sure in the back of his mind he wants to get back to that 22 point scorer who is the focus of the team. You just want to be that guy. You were that guy, and you want to get back to that level if you can. But he's simplifying his game for the benefit of the team right now, even as he keeps getting better and better. And I think that really sets a great tone. Maybe a lot of these guys don't need a tone set for them anyway, because like you said, the character is a consideration with this team, a big consideration with this team. But it's good to see a guy with his salary and with all that he's gone through, and with the fact that they didn't really use him back. They played, he got his job back right away, that he's doing everything he can to fit in on the team and be the great teammate he is. And it's cool to see that it's reciprocated from those guys who are really happy for him after the Minnesota game.
Yeah, that Minnesota game was, like, I did a bit on my sports show I stole it from Van Pelt, where it's like the best thing I saw all weekend, and it was
Nice.
I was like, Gordon Hayward scoring 30 points at any point would be the best, but to do it so quickly coming back from, again, one of the most horrific injuries I've seen live. Like we were all watching the game, we all had so much excitement, and for that end 5 minutes was just like so heartbreaking. And to watch, and like the efficiency he did it with, and how smooth he looked, and just I can't imagine what it was like being him. Was it Saturday night, like last Saturday? He scored 30. I mean, that must have been just such a great experience for him, and just to come back from all that. I mean, we went through the process, right? We got to see a lot of his rehab, and obviously we didn't go through it, but we got to see a lot of it, a lot of the sweat, a lot of the frustration, and to watch him come back so quickly and do, because again, you don't know. You have no idea what he's going to look like. Like Paul George the other night had like 40 for Oklahoma City, and to watch him do that, I thought was incredible. It's like, man, like these guys, like, they sometimes they come back and they take a while, but then they're the same guy again, and we never know with these with Hayward and with George and Karis LeVert. Was it Karis LeVert that got hurt earlier this year? Yeah, Brooklyn, and that's another nasty one. And you're like, you got to be kidding me. And Jeremy Lin's had how many torn ACLs, and it's been kind of gross. But to watch him do that tonight was really special. Two things before we get you out of here, Chad. One, I've noticed a little bit, and maybe I'm not crazy, but maybe I'm making too big of a point of this, because a lot of times assist numbers go up when people are making shots. Like, that's part of the byproduct of that. But I do think Kyrie's making more of an effort to share the ball. And so far this year, Kyrie has racked up 10 or more assists in 4 different games. He only did that once last year, and it was the first game of the season since against Cleveland. So part of that is, A, people are making jump shots now. But B, I do think Kyrie's making more of an effort to be more of a facilitator and to, come out of the gates hot, get his team up early, kind of like the LeBron thing. Like, he learned this from LeBron. Come out, put your stamp on the game early, let everybody know that you're here, then spend the rest of the game, until the fourth quarter, getting everybody else involved and picking your spots. But getting everybody else involved, getting everybody else involved in the rhythm of the game. And then when it comes time for the fourth quarter, you're fresh, everybody's in rhythm, and you can attack the defense any way you really want to. And the best example for me the other night was, I think it was a bounce pass to Baines, and I forget who they were playing, but he had a double team. It might have been Cleveland. Double team at the top of the key, and he's just dancing around, and Baines slips the screen, and he feathers the ball through 2 guys.
A little spin on it,
and hits Baines for the jam. And I'm like, I don't know if Kyrie's capable of that 2-3 years ago, but now he is, and now he becomes a significantly more dangerous player to guard.
Well, he might stop doing it if you told him he learned it from LeBron.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true, though. And he said the other element of that is he takes over when he has to. Sometimes I feel like, I love that he's initiating the offense and trying to get other guys involved. But watching him when he's on, I wish he would shoot more, because sometimes it feels like he just can't miss. But whether it's, a 25-foot three that is true out of his hand, or no exaggeration, he's the best finisher in traffic for a guard I've ever seen. And it feels like half the time when he drives the hoop, he's just trying to create some new angle or trying to add another trick rather than just finishing it. And lo and behold, he does. He's so extraordinary at that. Now it seems like he finishes with one hand every time, that long one-handed plastic man layup that he does. But I feel like he can score at will sometimes, and he doesn't do that unless it's absolutely necessary. Maybe it's just the evolution of Kyrie into being an even greater player and an even greater team player. But when I look at him sometimes, I think, this guy hit a shot in Steph Curry's face to knock off the 73-win Warriors and keep them from winning a championship on the road. He did it on the road. That is a guy who's accomplished about anything you want to accomplish in basketball in terms of clutch play and big moment play. And watching him do this now, it makes me anticipate what he's going to do in the postseason if everybody stays healthy and this whole group is together. Because it looks like at 14-10 as we talk right now, they'll probably be better than that when we're done talking when this airs. But it looks like they're really, really trending the right way, and he's the guy driving it. Yeah,
and you look at the rest of the East, and that Toronto team is really good. I think they're a legitimate threat. I like the way Milwaukee plays. I'm not quite sure they're deep enough But if Chris Middleton wants to play like he did last postseason against the Celtics, then I'm going to be absolutely terrified what this Bucks team looks like. Because that guy, he want to talk about not missing. That guy did not miss against Boston in that 7-game series, and I was more terrified of him than any player on Philly and then any player on Cleveland not named LeBron James. That guy was absolutely terrifying. And the way he just hit big shot after big shot. I love the way the Bucks are playing. I'm not quite sure if they're totally there, and I don't think, as much as people want to talk about Philly, I don't think they're deep enough. I think their spacing's terrible, and I'm not totally convinced that they're really ready. But as you look at the Celtics now and you look at them going forward, and you and I both agree that they're on the right track, what does this team need anything, or is this the continuity they're currently building? Is that enough for them for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think they're probably headed for the second seed. Toronto's off to such a fantastic start that you have to look at it and say they're going to sustain it, unless Kyrie's quad acts up or something, or he decides he hates Canada or something along those lines. Or Kawhi, I mean. But,
right.
Yeah, they're. I don't see what they need, really. I mean, it would be nice if Rozier settled in a little bit more. I'm not going to be one of those people who, if he goes out and shoots 2 for 10 in his next game, say, you got to trade him. He's playing for his contract, because you know what happens? They trade him and Kyrie's knee starts barking. That's
right.
How the world works. You trade your really good backup point guard, and the guy who's starting suddenly needs a backup. It's just so I'd be reluctant to move him. I just hope he gets a little bit more comfortable and accepting of the role that he's in, because his teammates are there for him. They all speak highly of him. Kyrie more than anybody else, but Rozier's still playing like tens of $1 million hinge on every single performance, whereas people know what he can do. They saw him in the postseason last year. They need to see him play a little bit more disciplined basketball this year, and I think he'll get the money he's looking for. He just needs to settle down a little.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think partly, we've talked a little bit about Marcus Smart, reining in a little bit, right? Just not being as crazy with his shot selection. I think part of that actually is he's not playing for a contract. He just got his contract. Now it's more of, what can I?
Great point.
Right, because part of the thing with Marcus was, oh man, what if he ever got his 3-point percentage up? What if that ever happens? And it's just never going to happen. But on that note, Chad, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I appreciate you joining me here on the weekend. Good luck to your daughter tonight in her first game. Hopefully, no injuries. That's all. The only thing I hope for now in sports is no injuries. Hopefully, everybody's healthy coming out of there, so they can play another one whenever the next one is. So, thanks for the time. Have a happy holiday, Chad, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, pal. We're setting the over-under at 4 points, so let's get this going.
There you go. Yeah, legalized gambling is now infiltrating the JV basketball world. Congratulations. See you, bud.
Take care, Evan.
See you, bud. And that will do it for this episode of Celtics Beat here on CLNS Media, the leading online provider of audio, video coverage of your Boston Celtics. Evan Valenti saying goodbye, but before we do, housekeeping things, one of those two. Anyway, make sure you follow us all over social media on Twitter. I'm at Evan Valenti, EvanValenti. Adam M. Kaufman on Twitter as well. Adam, who normally hosts this show. Also, CLNS Media on Twitter as well. Make sure you follow this podcast on iTunes. You subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe on Stitcher. Subscribe to our CLNS YouTube page, because we post post-game sound, pre-game sound. And good luck to your daughter tonight in her first game. Hopefully no injuries. That's all. The only thing I hope for now in sports is no injuries. Hopefully everybody's healthy coming out of there, so they can play another one whenever the next one is. So thanks for the time. Have a happy holiday, Chad, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, pal. We're setting the over-under at 4 points, so let's get this going.
There you go. Yeah, legalized gambling is now infiltrating the JV basketball world. Congratulations. See you, bud.
Take care, Evan.
See you, bud. And that will do it for this episode of Celtics Beat here on. And good luck to your daughter tonight in her first game. Hopefully no injuries. That's all. The only thing I hope for now in sports is no injuries. Hopefully everybody's healthy coming out of there, so they can play another one whenever the next one is. So thanks for the time. Have a happy holiday, Chad, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, pal. We're setting the over-under at 4 points, so let's get this going.
There you go. Yeah, legalized gambling is now infiltrating the JV basketball world. Congratulations. See you, bud.
Take care, Evan.
See you, bud. And that will do it for this episode of Celtics Beat here on CLNS Media, the leading online provider of audio, video coverage of your Boston Celtics. Evan Valenti saying goodbye, but before we do, housekeeping things, one of those two. Anyway, make sure you follow us all over social media.